Hi everyone, how are you all? So in today's class, we are going to learn about a new chapter of science today. Okay, so let me share my screen and show you how our chapter looks like and what we are going to study in this chapter. So just allow me a moment and here it is. Okay, so we are going to learn about the living organisms, its characteristics and habitat. Now, let me tell you a story of two boys, like two children. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so there are two children whose name is Paheli and Buhu. So they went for a trip to different places. So Paheli and Buhu are two beautiful children, and they are going for a beautiful trip. Okay, so one such trip took place in the river of Rishikesh. Okay, right? Okay, they climbed to the mountains of the Himalayas where it was very cold. They saw many kinds of trees on these mountains like oaks, pines, deodas, and very different from ones near their homes or plains. Okay, now see, when we go onto a different places, we see different plants, different animals, which often we don't see in our places, right? In our hometown, in our area. So when we go little different places than others, like if we move towards the mountains, or if move towards the desert, the type of plants, the type of animals change drastically, right? Right. Okay. In another trip, they traveled to Rajasthan and they moved through camels in the hot desert. And we see that in Rajasthan, there is very hot desert. The environment is very sand, environment is very dry, right? And at that moment, and it is very hot. So they collected different kinds of cactus plants from their trip. Okay, so they actually observed that in desert areas, there are some different kinds of plants that are there. Now, they went on a trip to Puri and visited sea beach dotted with casuarina trees. Okay, so now you notice that while they are moving from one place to other places, they are actually experiencing different animals and different plants on their path, right? Okay, so now let's understand how is this happening. So, organisms and their surroundings where they live. Now, we all live in our surroundings. Let's suppose we all live in our hometown and we see different plants, different animals in our environment, right? So, for example, I see a lot of lions in my area, right? Or bears in my area. It must be like I live in an area there has to be lots of forests. That's why I'm seeing them. But if you live in cities, you must find that there are less. Otherwise, we can see that there are very less animals that you can see. You can see them in zoos, but not on the roads, right? Yeah. So deserts have camels, mountains have goats and yaks, and Puri had some other creatures like crabs on the beaches and such variety of fish being caught by the fishermen at the sea. Right now, see, if you go on a beach area, you have seen some different fish, starfish, tuna fish. Right, we are seeing different fish breeds. Seafood is generally found in the beach areas. Like if you go on Goa, you see lots and lots of different seafoods. But if you go on hills, you can see different other stuffs, right? Other animals, other plants. The quality of the food changes. You see, when you go to Kashmir, you see lots of apples, right? Everything was there. Yes. Now, the presence of specific features on certain habitats which enable the organisms to live naturally in a place is called as adaptations. Now, for example, if I am here in my area and I can tolerate the amount of heat, I can tolerate the amount of, food materials in our environments, different kind of foods I am experiencing. You might not experience that kind of food materials in your environment, right? For example, in Kashmiri people have really cold environment. and we might not adapt to those environment, because for us that environment is very, 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 very cold that we are not used to, right? So these kind of things that we always went through, that is called as adaptations, right? Yes, these are part of adaptation. So we adapt to our environment. We are adapting the amount of heat in our environment, whereas the people of Kashmir, the people of hill areas who are living in hill areas, they are more prone to adapt the coldness in their environment, right? So adaptations of organisms differ depending on their place of dwelling. Dwelling means moving here and there, right? That's why a fish cannot live without water and a camel cannot live in a sea, right? Now, if we see, can you take out the fish and place them in a desert? It's not possible, right? But what if I tell you just you can do the other, vice versa? Can you please take out the camel and place them in the sea? It's not possible, right? ये हम नहीं कर सकते. Okay, so now observing how plants grow in different areas. Okay, let's see. Now, can you tell me different plants that you can see on forest? Yes, you can see a variety of plants. You can find a lots and lots of plants, includes medicinal plants. There are big plants over there. There are grown-up plants over there. There are small little plants over there, right? On mountains also, you can see different plants over there. In deserts, you can see different like cactus and everything you can find there. In the sea areas, you can see casuarina, every different kind of plants over there also, right? Yes. So different adaptations. So due to different adaptation, different conditions, environmental conditions, we see different varieties of plants and animals in our environment, right? Okay. Now, from this, we come to a new point, and that is called as habitat. Now, you must be wondering, what is habitat? Okay. So habitat it means a place where organisms live. It means a dwelling place. For example, I live in my area, right? So I am a very habitat of the terrestrial plants. Like I live in a plain, normal plain, right? Yes. And if we see some animal live in ocean, okay? So there are different and for them the habitat is a little different, right? Than us. Yes. So what habitat does is, habitat provides food, water, air, shelter, and other needs to organisms. And several kinds of plants and animals live in the same habitat. Okay. For example, in our habitat, we can see frogs, right? We can also see frogs on the seas and lakes, even, right, in the water bodies as well. We can see lions and animals in our habitat. We can see different birds, different dogs, cats, even humans in our habitat, right? But if you go to a different habitat like oceans, okay, like aquatic habitat, there where there lots of water are, okay, they're dependent on water. In that case, you must see that there are lots of fish over there. Different, you can see crabs, you can see, different sea animals over there, right? See, yes. So habitats, actually, there are two different kinds of habitats you can see. So first one is the terrestrial animals or terrestrial habitat. The animals that live on a land are called as terrestrial animal, and this kind of habitat is called as terrestrial habitat. Now, terrestrial habitats also different kinds of habitats there are there, and I will explain one by one to you. Now, components of habitat. See, there are two components of habitat. One is the biotic component and another one is the abiotic component. Okay, let me explain how. So, now you can, just a second. Okay. Now see, in the biotic component, the organisms, both plants and animals are living, are called as biotic habitat. For example, humans, animals, bacteria, fungi, plants, these are called as biotic components of the habitat. It means all the living organisms, we can include them. Okay. But all the non-living things, that such as rocks, soils, air, okay, water habitats constitute abiotic components, right? So abiotic components means a non-living thing. We can say air, minerals, sunlight, soil, water, everything. Okay, so these are called as our abiotic habitat, right? Okay, so how many components are there in a habitat? Two types of component are there in a habitat. So first one is the biotic component where all the living organisms were considered, and second one is the abiotic component where all the non-living organisms we are considering. Okay, yes. Now observing how plants grow. Now see, some plants grow from seeds, right? Different plants, different, when you see, you can see nursery plants. Okay, you go and buy a plant from the nursery and then you try to grow them, right? These are kind of a habitat you can see. So some plants grow from the seeds. Now some abiotic factors and their effects. Now can you tell me what are the abiotic factors? Yes, sunlight, air, all the non-living things, sunlight, air, soil, minerals, everything constitutes abiotic factors, and these have the effect of seeds as they grow into the young plants. Now, if you want to grow a plant, you first sow a seed, right? At that moment, you pour water to that. You provide, you have to keep them in sunlight because plant needs sunlight, right? Plants needs air. Without air, without sunlight, it can't survive, right? So in that case, some abiotic factors and their effect on the seeds as they grow into the young plants, right? So when the seed is turned into a plant, it is said to be have germinated. Now, when the seed, turned into a new plant, it is called as young plant. New plant. You see, when the seed grows, it forms a new plant, the very baby plant that we can see. And that's when we can say that the seed is germinated. Now, this is the beginning of the life of a new plant. So the first life, when you see that, oh, how the plants is growing, what you do is to make them grow, right? And the germination process is the first process where the seed starts growing. Okay. And a very good example that we made sprouts from moong dal and chana seeds, right? Yes. Yes. Now observing how plants grow. Now organisms exist in very cold as well as very hot climates, isn't it? So how did they survive to manage? Now you can see some organisms are there in the cold environment, like the yolk, like the goats, right? They are in the um what we say in the cold environment, and some organisms like camels are there in the deserts. Okay, you can find them in the deserts, and you must be wondering how they are surviving there. The heat is very, heat is there, very less amount of water is there, so how they are surviving, right? So now let's see what are the things that help them to survive over there. Okay, now see. So here comes the adaptation. I told you about adaptation. Now, this is the definition and the briefing on adaptations, how they survive on both, we can say in cold environment and in warm environment. Okay. Now see, adaptation is a method by which organisms get well adjusted to climate. For example, if I am in this zone, right? So if I move to Amsterdam, where the weather is very cold, it is very difficult for me to be there, right? I cannot adapt. But if I stay there for 10 to 20 years, I can easily adapt the environment, right? This is the same way plants and animals adapt the environment. So when they grow, they adjusted with the surroundings, they adjusted with the changes in the surroundings as well. Okay. Now it is not possible for our human body to, sustain, to take out a pressure or take out a temperature of more than 50 degrees, but still we are surviving on that temperature, right? The temperature is going up 50 degrees, even when we are kid, we don't even imagine that we could survive when the temperature goes up till 50. But still we are surviving, right? Temperature is more than 50 nowadays, but still we are surviving, right? So it is due to the adaptation because we kindly adapted the environment, right? The changes by the environment. Now, adaptation doesn't take place in a very short time. Obviously, it will take a lot of time to, be there. Adaptations. So adaptation doesn't take place in a very short time because the abiotic factors of a region also changes very slowly. And these organisms which cannot adapt to this changes die and only adapted ones survive. Now, you can see dinosaurs are not there today, right? We cannot see because they couldn't adapt with the environment. If they could, they're there, they will be still there, but they're not there, right? Because they cannot adapt the environment. Okay. Okay, then I think we learned till now. And if you learn till now, just give me a thumbs up. And if you understand everything, just give me a very good thumbs up so that we can understand that you understand everything. Okay. So now let's move to the next part. Now see different habitats. Now we are talking about the terrestrial habitat. Okay. Now see, habitat is generally of two types. One is the aquatic habitat and other one is the terrestrial habitat. Okay. There are two types of habitat. Now we are first talking about the terrestrial, then we'll move to the aquatic habitat. Okay. Now terrestrial means the plain places, normal places. Okay. Where the environment is very dry, different types of environment we are talking about. The first one in this terrestrial habitat is the desert. Okay, so there are desert-like animals like rats and snakes, which do not have long legs like camel has. To stay away from their intense heat during the day, they stay in the burrows in the deep sea, deep in the sand. So these animals come out only during the night when it is cooler. Now see, in desert, you can see different animals, right? So in desert, there are different animals, and the desert animals like rats and snakes, which do not have long legs. They do not have long legs. Now, desert has lots of sands, right? If the animal doesn't have long legs, how would they travel? How would they communicate? How will they move, right? And in this case, they stay away from the intense heat during the day. They stay in the burrows in the deep in the sea. Okay, so they are actually in the deep in the sand. Okay. Yes. So these animals come out only during the night when it is cooler so that they can move. Okay. And they couldn't adapt the hotter environment. Okay. Now see. Now desert plants. Now in deserts we see cactus, different plants, right? Now see, in deserts the leaves are absent, or we can say reduced or modified into spines to reduce water loss by transpiration. Now see, in desert, generally the environment is very hot. So if the environment is very hot, the sun soaks all the energy from the plants, and this process is called as transpiration. When the sunlight, with the help of sunlight, it soaks out all the water components that are there with the process of evaporations from the leaves of the plants. In that case, we call them as transpirations, right? Okay. Now stem is green and does photosynthesis, right? So the leaf-like structure you see in cactus, in fact, it's stem, right? So generally the leaf-like structures in cactus that you're seeing, that is the stem, because leaves are generally absent or very reduced. Leaves are not present. And which stems act as a leaves in those desert plants. Now, stem is also covered with a thick waxy layer, which helps to retain water in the tissues of cacti. Okay, so they have a thick waxy layer which retains water. They hold water. Okay, now most desert plants have roots that they go deep into the soil for absorbing water. So these are the components of the desert plants. Well done. Okay. Now, in the mountain region, let's see what all things we notice. So animals live in the mountain regions are also adapted to the conditions there. Now, can you tell me what are the conditions in the mountain regions? Yes, they are very cold, right? Yes, they are very cold. You can see, snowfall sometimes, right? So they have thick skins or for to protect them from cold, because there's the amount of cold is so much that they develop a thick skin over them to protect, to shield their body, right? So their skin act as a shield to protect their bodies, right? We do not have thick skin, but the animals over there have thick skin. Okay, they adapt to the environment in such a way, right? Yes. So they have a thick skin and fur to protect them from cold. For example, yaks have long hairs to keep them warm, right? Yes. Now, snow leopards have thick fur on its body, including feet and toes. Even the snow leopard has thick skin in the body and even in the feet and toes. Now, the mountain goat has strong hooves for running up in the rocky slopes of the mountains. Now, you can see they have like strong hooves like this in the, yes. So, they can run with the help of that. Okay. Yes. Now see grassland or deer. Now you can see in grasslands or we can see in the forest, we can see different plants. We can see animals, lions, like lions, tigers, we can see them. And if you notice, the color is generally the lions of the colors of lion and tigers are generally the wild animals. The colors are literally deep colors. Okay, so they can hide, okay, in the forest. But if you see about the deer, it has a very long ear so that it can hear the noise of the enemy and then it can run away. So you can see deer run faster because to protect themselves. So it is the adaptations that he taken away. Yes. So deer lives in the forest and grasslands with a strong teeth to chew tough plants. To avoid predators like lions, it uses a long ears to hear the movement and the eyes on the sides of the heads to spot danger from the directions, right? It helps it to escape quickly. So it can run quickly. But lions have light brown color, helps it to hide in the dry grasslands when it hunts for its prey. Prey means to find a food of their own. That is called as prey, right? Okay. The eyes in front of the face allows it to have a correct idea about the location of the prey. So his eyes, their eyes, yes, their eyes have this idea that they can see where their prey is. Yes, you can see the eagle. Eagle have such sharp eyes that they can spot on their prey from a very long distance, right? Yes, very good. Okay, now let's learn about the aquatic animals, okay? The aquatic habitats. Okay. Now we can see about the oceans, okay? So many sea animals have streamlined their bodies to help them move easily. So octopus and squids do not have this type of body. So they stay in the deeper layer of the oceans. Now see, many sea animals have to streamline their bodies, right? They have to move through the water. But octopus and squids do not have this type of body. So in this case, they actually stay in the deeper of the sea, right? Okay. Near the oceans, sea bathe and catch the prey that move towards them, right? And then if any sea animals go near to them, they catch them immediately. However, while moving their bodies in water, they can streamline their bodies. So when they are moving their bodies, they can streamline their bodies, right? These animals have gills to breathe and use oxygen in dissolved water, right? Whales and dolphins do not have gills and they breathe through nostrils and blowholes. Okay. Now see, let's revise again. These animals have gills to breathe and use oxygen in the dissolved water, right? And whales and dolphins do not have gills, so they breathe through nostrils, right? Yes. Okay. Now, let's see how this changed in ponds and lakes, right? Now, the ponds and lakes are the fresh water aquatic habitat, okay? Where the water is generally not saline water. They are normal water that we can, yes, they are fresh water. We can drink those water. The plants which grow on them are called as aquatic plants. All aquatic plants have the following adaptations. One is their roots are either small or not very developed with the function of the anchorage. Their roots are very small. You have heard or you have read about different kind of food like roots, right? Yes. Their leaves are ribbon like to cope up with the currents, right? Water currents. And the third one is stems of these plants are long, hollow, and light with spaces filled with air to keep them floating. The plant body is covered with mucilage, which prevents decay in the water. Now, another one is ponds and lakes. Yes, they are different type of aquatic animals. First one is aquatic adaptation. First one is free floating. So, these aquatic plants floats on water and their roots are very small. Example, water hyacinth, right? Yes. They float on water like this. Can you see the structure? They float on water. Yes. Another one is partly submerged. Now you can see this water lily, lotus plants, they're partly submerged. One part, the flower part is up and the stem part is down the, yes, the roots and stem are there in the submerged. Yes. Yes. So these aquatic plants are fixed in the soil by their roots. The stem of these plants grow up to the till the surface. Okay. And then the water bodies, their leaves and flowers are on the water. Okay. Example is lily or lotus. Now, another type of aquatic adaptation is the completely submerged adaptations. All these parts of the plants like stem, branches, leaves are under the water. Yes, these plants are fixed to the soil at the bottom called as, and the example is hydrilla. They are very much there. They are deep in the ocean. My bad, just a sec. They're deep in the ocean, right? Okay. Now, moving on. Adaptation. Let's learn about the adaptations and frog. Okay. Now see, they usually have ponds as their habitat. So they usually lives in ponds, right? Yes. Frogs can stay both inside of the pond and as well as we can see the frogs are moving in our households as well, right? They have strong back legs that help them leaping and catching their prey, right? They have webbed feet which help them swim in the water, right? Yes. Now, let's learn about the characteristics of living organisms. Okay. Now, let's learn about the different characteristics that living organisms have, that we have, the plants have, different animals have. Okay. Let's see. So, now, first is they need water, food, and air to survive, like us, right? They can grow and move on their own and respond to stimuli. They can reproduce themselves, they respire and releases energy from the food. They can excrete and get rid of waste materials from their bodies. And the last one is they have indefinite lifespan, like definite lifespan they have, and they are made up of living cells, right? Yes. Okay. Now let's learn about food. How food is playing a major role in the adaptations, right? Okay. So, now see, all living organisms, all living organisms need food to survive because food gives us energy, right? Food gives organisms energy to grow further. Now, imagine if you don't eat food in a single day, you feel like having nothing. You don't have any energy, right? This is what happens when we Yes, when you don't need food. So we need food for energy to grow our body. Along with the food, they need air and water. Plants make their own food through photosynthesis, right? So whereas animals and humans depends on each other for their survival, right? Yes. Now see how growth is playing a responsible or major part. All organisms show growth by increase in size and weight. When all living organisms grow, they become taller, bigger on their own. Now see, respiration. Now respiration, if you do not inhale, how could we survive, right? So when we inhale, the air moves from outside to inside of the body. Breathing is a part of the respiration, right? Yes. All living organisms breathe in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. So all living organisms like us, we breathe in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Some examples, earthworm breathes through its skin. Fishes use their gills to get oxygen. Insects have tiny pores present in their exoskeleton that you have already heard or you have already read in your previous class about bones and skeletons, right? Bones and joints, you already had this idea about the exoskeleton. And plants also respire through tiny pores like that are present in their leaves that are called as stomata. Okay. Now, respond to stimuli. Now you can see every plant respond. If I just touch you somewhere, you can know, right? You can feel that. Similarly, plants and animals have that respond to the stimuli, right? Think of an insect. When you go to catch the mosquito, it will directly go down, right? It is because of the stimulations, right? Yes. So all living things respond to the changes around them is called as stimuli. Wild animals run away when bright light flashed on them, right? Yes, you can see in jungles and forest when the wild animals are there, the people, you can see in different places also. Different places have different way to uh, cater with the wild animals. If you see elephants, people have this mashals where there are a huge amount of light so that they can run away. The wild animals can run away, right? Yes, they respond to the bright light. Cockroaches begin to move and begin to move their hiding places if the light is switched on at the right? Yes, in the kitchen, right? In some plants like mimosa, or we can say the touch me not plant, uh, leaves close or fold when someone touches them. When someone touches them, touch me not just closed or opens, right? Yes. It is also depends on them. And flowers of some plants bloom only at night, whereas some plants bloom only after sunset. Right. Yes. Now, another part is called as excretion. The process of removal of waste from the bodies is called as excretion. Excretion means the waste materials that we are removing. We all know not all food eaten, used become a waste, right? Not all food become a waste. There are the unnecessary food that cannot used in the process of giving out energy. In that case, those act as a waste material. Yes. Our body produces to waste. Sorry. Our body produces the products in the life like respiration and digestion. Some plants move, um, some plants remove waste as a secretion. For example, gums and resins as the excretory products. And some plants store their waste and they do not harm the plant as a whole. Reproduction, the process by which living thing produce more of its kinds are called as reproduction. So animals like insect, fishes, birds lay eggs, and when the egg hatch, the young ones come out. But in case of dog, cat, humans, you can see we directly give a birth to younger ones, and that younger ones turn into a adult one, right? Yes. Okay. Now, animals like cat, dog, human give birth to the young ones. So some plants reproduce through parts other than seeds. Example, potato with bird goes into a new plant, right? Yes. Now, Now, the last one is the movement. Now, all living organisms move by themselves. They come from one place to another place. Yes, they can move from one place to another place. Plants are generally anchored in soil, so they do not move from one place to other places, right? Yes. However, various substances like water, minerals, food synthesized by them move from one part of the plant to another part of the plant. Also, opening and closing of a flower is also called as movement. And this is what our chapter looks like. So in this chapter, we learn about habitat, different kinds of plant movements, how they are adapting to different environment, what are things are necessary for them, and how the plants actually function. What are the different kind of things that a plant and animals goes through, right? From born to die, right? So this is how our chapter looks like. And tell me if you have any doubts. I will see you in the next class. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.